Marathon. So Marathon just had a server slam this weekend, right? So they gave people the option to play the game for free for the entire weekend, as well as Friday and Monday, I believe. So the server slam is what they called it, ended today. So it gave an opportunity for people to try the game, see if they liked it, see if they didn't like it, see what they needed to change before release. Even though the release is literally on Thursday, so it's literally like 2 days away. So I don't know how much they could really change. So they couldn't really change a big aspect or a big part of the game. Um, but majority of people have been there's been a lot of mixed reviews, right? So there's been people who believe the game is pretty solid in terms of its mechanics, its gameplay. However, they don't think it's worth $40. So obviously Luke Stevens here, um, which I think is a great reviewer, by the way. So everyone should go check him out. So he went over the game and he said that he didn't feel it was worth $40 right now, and that's mostly because of at least from what I recall, he said there are some very systematic issues with the game which they haven't changed, like the overheating. So basically, so we can just touch on the video here. Let me see if I can try to find a part of the video that he may have included, which kind of shows the overheating. That actually might be difficult to find. Oh, yeah, so you can see there's a bar right here, right? There's like this bar right here. So I assume that's the same overheating bar. So what that basically does is whenever you perform an action like sprinting, um, or you dash, or you slide, that bar fills up. So it's basically a stamina bar. Um, but it's instead of like decreasing stamina, it kind of like increases. So it like increases where it overheats, and then your character essentially cannot sprint or dash or perform any action besides walking for a while until the bar goes back down. So this, although I didn't find it too much of an issue, I think some people do because then it definitely limits how much of a movement you can have. And especially with an FPS game that is deliberately looking to be a little fast paced, it is kind of weird that they have this feature. There are upgrades you can unlock, like a skill tree, which will make things easier for you to sort of reduce that bar, right? Or sorry, reduce the stamina cost. So essentially, you'll overheat much slower and be able to perform more actions. But apparently, there's a big grindy portion of that as well. So there's a lot of hours you have to invest in the game in order to unlock specific things in that skill tree. Um, and then in addition to the overheating issue that they had, the UI of the game. So I only played the game for about like 2 to 3 hours, just to sort of go through the tutorial, just to feel it out. And then I was able to play, I think, 1 or 2 or 3 games. And when I did that, the biggest problem was the whole point of a looter shooter is when you go and you find something, there's like this dopamine of finding something really, really cool. Let me see if there's a. So like if you look at the menu here, right? So this is like your inventory menu. So you where you have all your stuff here, and this would be your loadout. Luke's head is covering part of the menu, which is fine. But basically, the way things are organized is just not very intuitive. And then if you look at some of the items themselves, they all have like this boxy element to it. So it's the whole point of Marathon's art style. Everything's like sort of Roblox boxy. But a lot of the boxy things are not very clear to see which ones are what item. So they all kind of look the same. And you really have to just wait and kind of read each item and hover over it to see what it is and what the rarity is. There is obviously indication of the color. So like there's blue, greens, and that kind of determines rarity. But it's not very clear sometimes, especially when there's a whole bunch of loot. So that is a huge problem. And then it literally took me, I would say, like 30 30 minutes just to go through all the menu screens just to see um where everything was, like in terms of like your where your loadout was, your free loadouts that you might want to use, where your skill tree stuff is, contracts that you want to do in order to basically, unlock certain things in the game and get XP and stuff. Like, all that was just like puzzling for a lot of people, and I think that definitely will put a lot of people off, and it definitely did. So we'll get into that. But in terms of the actual gameplay itself, it is great. It can actually get pretty addictive. So the actual moment to moment gameplay, like everything's so smooth. I also really like the art style, right? So I think it's very unique. That's the reason I like it, right? There are issues. I don't hate the whole Robloxy Minecrafty kind of look to it because it just shows a little bit of unseriousness. Another issue is like the highlighter stuff. They overdo it. And there was a point when I first put on the game where it literally just hurt my eyes. I was like, what am I looking at? And I'm like, why are my eyes already burning? And I've only played this game for about 45 minutes to an hour. So I literally had to like go into the settings, try to see if I can play around with the gamma settings. And the motion blur is also really bad. Like if it was moving things around and all the neon colors are jumping at my face, I was like, why are my eyes burning? I'm like, I can't see myself. Like I was sitting down to play several hours, but I literally had to stop playing after a while because my eyes needed a break. So the lighting, I think you got to kind of tweak the settings, but the art style is actually really interesting, which I really appreciate. Like there's so many cool things, as well as the story, the game menus. It's almost like you're watching a movie. So it feels like you're living through an experience. It's not just like, here, play the game, here's a loadout, okay, you're in a match. It actually feels like there's a lot of work put into the story, which I think is extremely impressive. But the issue is, a lot of people do want to play a game like this casually, right? So someone might want to just hop on for like, I don't know, a few minutes, right? And just want to see how the game, or just want to get in a couple of quick games, right? So they just want to, you know, sorry, one second. I just want to make sure the audio is working fine. All right, everything looks to be good. So yeah, the more casual player would want to just hop on, play a few games, and then just hop off, right? And the issue is, as a beginner player, there are so many intricate things. Now that's the same case with art creators, with other games in the genre like Escape from Tarkov, where there is a big or huge steep learning curve. But the issue, I think, the advantage of something like art creators is even if I don't know all the loot, or if I don't really know what I need in terms of unlocking like my crafting tables, all that, I can just go in and kind of just play it like a third person shooter. Kind of just go in, get some kills, pick up some loot, just grab it, not really worrying about leveling stuff up. So I can just play it very casually. So if I wanted to play it with a friend who like grinds art creators and I'm kind of just there, um, you know, wanting to just hop in with him, not know much about the game, and just kind of play a few rounds, I'll have no problem. With a game like this, there's so many complexities that show up, and the whole issue is like you can't just pick it up and play. Like there's a lot you gotta learn, and I think for the average gamer, that's gonna put people off. So that divides and segments the population even more. Another issue, the game is $40. This is not a free to play game. I know Arc Raiders was also $40. Escape from Tarkov, I'm pretty sure, is also paid. Um, so I understand like they're also not charging a full premium price. They're charging $40. But the game doesn't really have like a story mode. It just has like this multiplayer extraction shooter mode. And they're charging $40. And I think that's not enough to convince people to get the game. Whereas Arc, I think a lot of people got invested because, their friends were playing and then they're watching streamers play, and it's very easy to just see what's going on because you just have characters in this world and it's third person. It's easy to see what's going on. In a game like this, you really gotta like sit down. You can't just like look from the corner of your eye as to like what the game is playing like you actually have to know what's going on, what's where everything is, what you're looking at. Like if they're shooting at a NPC, at a player, you kind of have to like focus on the screen. Once again, going back to the problem with the game's visuals, and I think that's what holds it back. So this was just a server slam, and the one thing I wanted to bring up with the server slam is the Steam numbers, right? So the player count. So if we look at the player count, so basically, did it come out Thursday? Thursday or Friday, whenever it came out. So the all-time peak was 143,000 players, which I was expecting to have more, right? Because Bungie, the company who developed the game, they are a big company, and they were expecting Marathon to become a standard game that most people just play, kind of like Arc Raiders, or maybe Fortnite, something like that. So they definitely, I'm sure they might have been aiming for more people, because 143,000 does seem pretty short, especially considering the server slam was free to play. So it's just for people to come and check out the game, right? And I feel like a lot of people have heard about the game, so I don't think that was an issue. Although a lot of my friends and a lot of people I watch online, some people are like, what is this game, right? Especially if they haven't hopped into a game like Arc Raiders yet. They don't exactly know the extraction shooter genre too well. And also, it's a completely new IP. It's not like COD, where it's like the next COD came out, everyone knows about it. They might give it a try. So I can see how people might not know about the game, which is why maybe they didn't come to the server slam. Also, the server slam was just kind of like a demo. Some people might not have had the time, right? And they didn't pay for the game, so they might have not really had the desire to come and play the game. There's also the issue with there's also the problem with basically any progress you make during the server slam, everything gets wiped. So you can't carry that progress over into when the game eventually releases. So I think there are definitely factors which held people back from maybe coming and playing, but 143,000 still seems a bit low. And then the fact that by Friday and Saturday, you're looking at about, so Saturday, peak Saturday was 84,000 people. So that was almost like, I think if we do the math and stuff, which we're looking at about a 40% fall off from the 143,000, which is kind of wild if I'm gonna be honest. Because they should at least be able to retain a good percentage of people. But if that many people dropped, the people that were the people that had dropped playing it clearly didn't enjoy the game or felt like it wasn't for them. And then as we continued, it just fell further and further in terms of the numbers. So this many people I don't think will show up at launch, right? I'm sure only 50% or less will have actually bought the game, at least on Steam. I know this game also comes out on consoles, and then out of those 50K, 60K, maybe half that population will actually stick around for the next few months. But the game could pick up, right? Like, I enjoyed myself the few hours that I playing it, and I do want the game to be successful. I do want to see this game shine, because it just gives more competition is always good, right? It makes Arc also, it may push them to release more updates, and that will definitely be good in this new genre of extraction shooters. And this game, like I said, the loop is fine, and I can see myself getting really addicted. But then my issue with, because I haven't pre-ordered the game yet, because I kind of want to see what that looks like on day one, day two of launch and see how many people are actually playing. Because if I see like no people playing and it's like a high guard situation, which obviously it's not going to be that bad, but if I clearly see only 30k people playing at peak or something, I know within a month this game's going to be nowhere. And it's like I would like to continue being or playing a game where I can actually make progress. Similar to Arc Raiders, right? Arc, I invested so many hours, and that was right at the beginning. I didn't know it was going to be that popular, but I enjoyed the game so much that I was hooked. But then I had no regrets about purchasing it, even after the few hours I spent right in the beginning when it first launched, because it became a huge sensation. And I know I can always hop back in and I can be sweaty if I wanted. I can play casually if I wanted because I get both opportunities. Here, if there's 30k people playing and it continues to drop off, if one day I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to get really good at Marathon. I hop in, I realize half the population are just sweats, right? Because there's such a small population of people, which introduces more competitiveness and it just reduces the barrier of entry. And now I'm just cooked about trying to get good at a game. Because that's the only way a game like this, which is, by the way, it's extremely competitive. I mean, there's a very competitive gap and range for this game. So there's definitely going to be a big learning curve. And once you overcome that learning curve, then you're going to get really good at it because it does have like that Bungie shooting, but also the whole loot thing. And like there's obviously in-game mechanics because there's abilities, right? You can use like dashes, whatever the abilities, those each character has his own unique ability and being able to use those effectively. So that could definitely increase the skill ceiling there. So I'm kind of waiting on launch day and seeing what the numbers look like because this will determine. Now, not everything has to be based off Steam numbers. Obviously, like if you like a game, just go and buy it because you know you're gonna have a good time with it. Regardless, even if you just play it for a month and you literally grind it for like 2 weeks, you've gotten your money's worth, right? There's not much you can expect beyond, let's say, at least from a normal game at this price. If you're going to expect more than 100 hours and say like, hey, I need more content, which, you know, you might want because you enjoy the game, but in terms of the amount you've paid, you've already won well what you paid for it. So there's not much of an issue there. So yeah, that was Marathon. Hoping the launch goes well because I do want to see new games perform well, right? I never want to see a game fail.